In the world of Christianity, there's this little gem tucked away in the Bible that might leave some folks scratching their heads. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people. 1 Peter 2:9 King James Version. Peculiar? Really? It's like God's telling us, hey, you're not just special, you're peculiar. And that's a good thing. Now, if we were to look up the word peculiar, it doesn't quite scream the life of the party. It's a little closer to strange and unusual or quirky, with a hint of don't touch the button. It's for your own safety. So here we are, Christians, called to be peculiar. And let's be honest, the first thing that comes to mind is the church folk you've met that just know how to stand out. Maybe it's the way they wear their socks with sandals, or their ability to pronounce hallelujah in 13 different ways, depending on the mood. You know who you are. The Bible doesn't say, be bland and indistinguishable. Oh no, it says be peculiar. Now, before we start imagining a world where everyone walks around in a robe and sandals, quoting King James verses and judging everyone who dares to use modern slang, let's consider the deeper meaning. To be peculiar is to be set apart, not because we're weird for the sake of weirdness, but because we're reflecting the glory of God in a world that doesn't always get it. After all, the world says fit in, but Christians have a different tune. Be holy, as I am holy. 1 Peter 1:16 King James Version. Take Noah, for example. The guy was building an ark when no one even knew what rain was. Talk about peculiar. People must have looked at him like he was off his rocker, but he just kept building. Why? Because God said build an ark, and Noah followed through with it, even if it made him the object of every joke for miles around. But he was faithful, and that made him different, peculiar even. And what about the Apostle Paul? He was shipwrecked, beaten, thrown in prison, and still singing praises. If that doesn't scream peculiar in the most glorious way, I don't know what does. So Christians are called to be peculiar, but it's not about looking odd just for the sake of being odd. It's about living with a purpose that doesn't fit the world's mold. It's loving the unlovable, forgiving the unforgivable, and being patient when your Wi-Fi goes down for 5 minutes. In a world that screams conform, we are called to shine brightly with the love and light of Christ. So yes, let's be peculiar. Just like Jesus, who was so peculiar, they crucified him for it. In conclusion, if your friends and family think you're a little different because of your faith, congratulations. You're probably doing it right. Peculiar? Absolutely. Ordinary? Never. Romans 12:2 KJV says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So as Christians, we're not just supposed to be peculiar. We're called to be transformed, renewed in our thinking, living in a way that reflects God's will instead of the world's. When you stand out, it's not because you're trying to be different for the sake of it. It's because God's working in you, making you a living testimony of His goodness. Peculiar? You bet. But in the best way possible, reflecting the light of Christ in a world that desperately needs it.